Funding for this program is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Austin is painting the town pink for cancer research. John Garry is working to help grow the business community. And draining the swamp, southern Minnesota style. Stick around, On Cue is next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
The 8th annual Paint the Town Pink event is just around the corner. This event has raised thousands and thousands of dollars for cancer research. We're going to learn a little more about it this year. Joining me today is Paint the Town Pink chairperson, Kathi Finley, and Mike Keeley, media director with the Austin Bruins. Welcome to On Cue, and welcome back. Success has really, this program has just taken off. I can't see another one like it around the country, not only raising money for cancer, but raising awareness of it.
Absolutely. We are so fortunate to be in not only the Austin community, but the surrounding communities that really truly embrace this and just go so much farther and beyond what we could expect for them to do each year.
And primarily folks might know about it from the hockey match, Paint the Rink Pink. Pink has become kind of the slogan, the color that you use to recognize the cancer awareness, but you do a lot of other things around the year as part of this event. Talk a little bit about the other events you do.
Yeah, things are really expanding. It's hard to fit everything now into 2 or 3 weeks in the middle of winter, so we have events that go on in the fall, things like Farmer John's Pumpkin Patch does something when they open up the beginning of their season. Sports teams from the high school all do events throughout the school year. We're looking to really expand year-round.
And Mike, this is unusual. I mean, I'm sure all league teams do goodwill in their markets or their cities, but this would seem to me to be a really unique partnership.
Yeah, I think other teams have taken what we've done and tried to create their own event. And I know the cancer fundraiser, particularly breast cancer with the pink theme, has really taken off throughout all of sports. But I think what makes our event unique, besides being the fact that our event kind of started the whole Paint the Town Pink, is the post-game jersey auction and the way we create basically a whole separate event after the hockey game, where the players have to put on skits, whether it's individual or in groups, which is a whole different level of entertainment. First they play the hockey game, then they put on another show that has to come from them, that they kind of create. Makes it really unique, and it helps bring those numbers up when it comes to raising the money, which is so important.
And these are young men, these are high school, many of them high school, so they have to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, and it's great for team bonding, right? I mean, they hear from, the new players hear from the returning players and the veterans about how it goes and what's expected and some of the ideas, things that have been done in the past. But one of the things that I enjoy watching now in my 3rd year is the new players that come in. They all hear about Paint the Rink Pink and how it's the largest crowd of the season and how there's a lot of hype surrounding it. But when they actually see it and get to be a part of it, that's what I really like, to kind of marvel at how they react to it, and hopefully they gain an understanding of the importance of the cause, because everybody knows somebody that's affected by cancer, and it's a great thing to see that they come on board and understand the importance.
And dare I say, talking about the scientists and the professionals at the Institute, they get excited about this. And if you know scientists, they get excited about data and things that I don't understand. And many of them can be kind of quiet people, but getting around this sport, it's an unusual combination because they really get into it.
They do, and it's a really fun night for them. There's a section that's reserved at the game for the scientists and their families. Many of them have not seen a hockey game. So it is really fun to see them kind of marvel not only at the game itself, but all of the events that are going on that night as well.
All the work you do, this year you're calling the year for Paint the Town Pink is 300,000 and growing. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, we've tried to set goals each year for fundraising, and we hit 300,000 this past season. That's a lot of money in the matter of a few weeks. So we thought we would just do our best to not be overzealous with it, but we want to at least meet that goal and try to exceed it again this year.
And one of the events involves running into the lake. Are we doing that again?
Oh, absolutely. Well, you're going to be there, aren't you?
Yeah, of course.
Yep, that's a pretty big event.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many people in our community want to jump in Eastside Lake in January.
How is it just working on this issue? I find that if you're raising funds for a thing, a building or a playground or something tangible that you can see, that's one thing. But here you're dealing with something that you may not see benefit until, who knows, years on, and it's sort of a scientific thing. How are you able to put a face or a reality to some of the money that you're raising, if that makes sense? Because it's kind of it's a theoretical, they're working on things they don't know yet.
Right. Well, we're raising money not only, it's for everybody, because at some point you look at breast cancer alone, 1 in 8 women will be diagnosed with breast cancer. So when you start looking at your circle of family and friends and you do the math, the odds of just being touched by breast cancer alone are big. And when you start looking at other cancers, the likelihood of not being touched in some way is very, very slim. So although breast cancer is probably the one that there's the most awareness brought to, and we do things in pink, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing that we're doing. That's not the only cancer that we care about at the Institute, and they're working for all types of cancer, and a lot of the research that's done for breast cancer can carry over to help in other types of cancer as well.
Mike, why is it important for your organization, for the Bruins, to be part of this?
Well, the first thing is in understanding the importance of the community from an aspect of our existence as a team. We couldn't have a team here without the support of the community, without the people obviously buying tickets, but coming out for 28 to 30 nights over the course of a season and doing so for now 8 years. So, our ownership all the way down to the players has a great understanding of how important the community is to us, for us to just exist. But there's also that level of a burden of responsibility for our players to be role models for some of the younger kids. We have an extensive Healthy Habits program where our players go into the schools, and we even had a kind of a field trip day game earlier this season. And kind of like I said before about the new players coming in and kind of gaining an understanding of the importance of some of these charitable causes, they also gain an understanding of the importance of being a role model and developing not only as hockey players but as people. And that's something that our coaches prioritize highly when recruiting players, and the opportunity for them to take on a role model role just helps them become better people too.
The date for this is February 10th, 2018. That's the big Paint the Pink Rink Pink night. So do you use food coloring, or how do you make that ice pink?
I'm not privy to the way that the city of Austin and Park and Rec gets that done, but I give them a lot of credit because it doesn't look easy. I know that it's a multi-step process where it's not like it goes from white to pink, boom. It's a gradual layer upon layer where it gets darker and darker pink. And for all the work they put into for just one night of hockey, we really thank them for playing along, and they deserve a lot of credit because it really is something to behold when the night comes and everyone's wearing pink and the players are wearing pink, and it just wouldn't be right if the ice wasn't pink too.
And you're getting involved. It's a personal thing. You've been doing it a long time. Do you ever get tired of talking about cancer?
I'm hoping for the day that I don't have this position anymore because it's not needed. I'm not going to lie, there's a little bit of a pink hangover long about, the end of February into March a little bit, where we just kind of decelerate. But then you see somebody that's been diagnosed, or you hear about somebody that's passed away from cancer, and the fire lights right back up, and it's just time to get going at it again.
So folks can get involved. Besides going to the match, is there a web resource or some other way they can find out? I suppose watch the paper for events, or?
The paper, TV, radio. They can also go to the Hormel Institute website. We have a pink link right up in the top corner. They can click. It has our full calendar of events going on.
That's probably the most up-to-date information.
Absolutely.
Great. Well, folks, Kathi Finley, Chair of Paint the Town Pink, and Mike Keeley, Media Director of the Austin Bruins, thank you very much. Good luck in the rest of your season. The season's still young.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet. Stay with us. Our Vision 2020 update with Greg Seams is up next.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org.
Welcome back to On Cue. We're here on location at the Austin Artwork Center, talking with leaders who are making a difference in our community. Vision 2020 began 5 years ago with a simple goal: to make Austin a better place to live, work, and play for everyone by the year 2020. I'm joined today by John Garry, who's the Executive Director of the Development Corporation of Austin and also a Vision 2020 Steering Committee member. So thanks for being here, John.
My pleasure.
So you've also been very involved with the Business Friendly Environment Committee, one of the big 10 ideas that came out of Vision 2020. And of course, your work with DCA naturally lends itself to promoting a good local economy. And one of the most recent developments that's been happening is the Grow Austin Fund that DCA has been working with the city and the county and Austin Utilities on. Could you share a little bit about that process and what the goals are and what the impact hopes to be?
Yeah, well, it is. I think we went into it with the idea of the standout incentives, which is actually taken right out of the Vision 2020 business friendly environment. But we wanted something to offer local businesses that was distinctive to our community. And these will be incentives for job creation and capital investment. So if there's a description or definition of which types of jobs, but generally it's commercial or manufacturing, technology, some involved in high technology would be examples. And then if they create 3 jobs, if the company invests $250,000 or more, they'll get rebates per job created based on the wages that are for the positions.
Okay, and this is a supplement to the state job incentive program, right?
Yeah, we thought it would help. The state has a really similar program. We actually just copied it, I mean, with their permission. Highly plagiarized their program, and what it will do is they score their incentive programs based on local involvement. That's one of the criteria. So we thought this is a really good way to draw attention to their incentive programs, but then also increase likely a local business's chances of getting a higher rebate or incentive from the state.
Right, so really putting Austin ahead of the pack, or as much as we're able to.
Yeah, we want to stand out, a little bit above. Right. Austin Utilities is part of it, and whereas the county and the city and DCA will be giving a rebate per job created or for capital investment. Utilities is going to give back some of the initial electrical demand. So if a company invests a lot and their electrical demand goes up, a portion of that will go back to the company.
All right. So how are you communicating this to folks? How are you getting the word out?
Well, we're kind of gearing up for 2018. The budget allocation is for 2018. So we'll have something on, it's not there yet, but we'll have something on our Facebook page. We want to get out through the website. And then a number of people just visit businesses locally on a regular basis. We want to word of mouth as much as possible.
Yeah, that's great. It sounds like a great program for sure, and will be a big boost to the local economy, hopefully. Changing gears a little bit, another program that DCA has been sponsoring lately is the Austin Community Growth Ventures Commercialization Project, working with Judy Lundy and the Hormel Institute. Tell us a little bit about that and what the prospects are.
Well, The basics of economic development, wherever you go, is to build on your strengths. So you'll hear that anywhere. And in Austin, one of the strengths we have is involved in bioscience, largely with the Hormel Institute. Austin Community Growth Ventures is a new nonprofit that Judy Lundy is coordinating. And what it is try to get those who are doing research, get their ideas out into the market. It's sort of a partnership with the University of Minnesota, the Hormel Foundation, the Hormel Institute, but working with scientists who have ideas that could be licensed to a company, that would bring money back to that scientist, it would be money back to the institute. Or if they don't license it, they could be thinking about doing their own startup company. And that would be, then they would, if it's successful, they would get the profits from that, but also hopefully create some jobs.
Right, yeah, it's a really innovative way of looking at the resources we have in the community and ways that we can uplift those and really help them grow. So thanks a lot, John. We really appreciate all the work that you're doing at DCA, and we hope to see you soon.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Well, that's all for this edition of Vision 2020. If you'd like more information or would like to get involved, visit us at www.vision2020austin.com. Thanks for doing your part to create a greater Austin.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org.
Hollandale, Minnesota is located 15 miles northeast of Albert Lea on what was once Rice Lake Marsh. This marsh covered about 15,000 acres. Early attempts were made to drain the marsh for agricultural purposes. In 1918, George H. Payne of the Payne Investment Company of Omaha, Nebraska, came to examine the marsh. The following year, a holding company, Albert Lea Farms, was organized to carry out the project of acquiring the property, draining the marsh, developing the reclaimed land, and settling the area. The Buckeye ditching and road building machine made ditches 12 feet wide and 4 feet deep. By the fall of 1920, 57 miles of ditches and 19 miles of roads were completed. The company offered land to Dutch settlers, many from Iowa, because of their strong work ethic and their experience working peat land previously underwater. In 1922, the town was platted and a Dutch Reformed church was dedicated, followed by a school the next year. By the end of 1923, the business section of Hollandale was completed. The businesses included a general store, warehouse, hotel, lumberyard, cement works, and restaurant. Some of the early crops grown were sugar beets, onions, potatoes, and celery. Due to increased crop production, the Milwaukee and Rock Island Railroads extended branches to Hollandale. On September 4, 1926, a celebration was held marking the completion of both railroad lines into the area. A September 1924 issue of Albert Lea Tribune stated, "Hollandale is founded on peat, drainage, potash, phosphate, and the Dutch national character." This story of the past was brought to you by the Freeborn County Historical Society.
For many folks, pets are just like family. On this old episode of KSMQ's Pet Connections, we covered the basics of how to select, train, and care for your dog. Enjoy this look back into the KSMQ archives with Pet Connections.
Welcome to Pet Connections. I'm your host, Mike Schnell. Thank you for joining us. With me is Dr. Mark Wenner from Cascade Animal Hospital in Rochester. We also have visiting us Kim Radke, Shelter Manager for Paws and Claws Humane Society in Rochester. Welcome. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your dog that you have with you today?
This is Austin, and he is actually one of our shelter animals, and he is a 1.5-year-old Chihuahua, and he's about 7 pounds, and he's really calm for a Chihuahua. He's a very well-behaved boy, aren't you? Yes.
He absolutely is. Dr. Wenner, why don't you tell us a little bit about the dog you have with you today?
This is Brandy. Brandy's a 7-year-old English Mastiff. She weighs about 135 pounds, so she's a big girl, and we actually adopted her through a client of ours that had moved into a situation where they could no longer have her. So we're very happy to have her. She's the second Mastiff that we've owned.
Absolutely. Well, it's really interesting. We're talking about different breeds. I mean, it's kind of interesting that we have two such a large dog with us today and such a small dog with us today. Why don't we talk a little bit about how to pick the right breed for you, how to pick the right size dog for your family?
Well, really, you want to do some research about that beforehand, and you know, the size of the house that you have, the size of the yard that you have, all those things really need to come into play. A larger dog is going to need more exercise and outside exercise, that kind of thing. Smaller dogs need to get out too, but you might not have to walk as long. So you really want to do research on the breed and their activity level. Some dogs are really hyper, some are hunters, some are lap dogs, and you really need to look at a whole realm of different possibilities when you're checking a breed.
I couldn't agree more. They're really one of the key questions you have to ask is lifestyle questions about your family, the types of things that you like to do, how active is the family. Do you need a dog that has a lot of energy, is going to get out there and really run? We have families that love to have dogs that can go for runs. You have families that are more sedentary and they want a couch potato. So certainly different breeds fill each of those niches.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, obviously, both of these dogs one is adopted already and then one obviously is up for adoption. Let's talk a little bit about the adoption process and how we go through and find the right dog for us. If we see a dog that we think is going to be ours, what do we go through as far as the process of adopting a dog?
At our shelter, we recommend the whole family is involved in that decision. If you have children, sometimes you as the parents may want to come in first to check out the dog. It may not be for your family at all. It may be at the shelter because it didn't get along with children. And then we recommend that every person that lives in that household, or even friends that may visit quite often, come in to meet the dog to see how it responds. With shelter animals, we don't always know their background, so you want to make sure that you check everything out. That's where you can also do your research on that breed that you might be looking at that might be available for adoption. And then if you have pets that can come in to meet the animals, we require that your pets come in as well to make sure that they're going to be compatible or to work out any issues that you may have if you need to get into training right away and that kind of thing. And then through that process too, it'll help you understand what you may need to do at home to get your house ready to bring that new pet home. Some must sleep in a crate, they might have potty issues, that sort of thing, and others might be older and ready to just come into your home and fit in perfectly. So there's definitely a lot of research to do ahead of time.
Now, I know when we adopted our dog, we talked a little bit about, you generally see, if you're reading the websites and that sort of thing, that smaller dogs, like we have here, for example, you maybe don't want tiny children or younger children in the house just because they might not understand exactly how to do that. Talk a little bit about that and how to pick that with your family as well.
Yep. Another reason that we don't put the really small dogs with younger children is that they just can get hurt so much easier. They can break a leg, the children can accidentally fall on them. You get a dog, a larger dog like this, and then if a smaller child falls on that dog, it's not as likely that you're going to have injury. So that's one of the biggest concerns with these tiny little guys. And then younger puppies too, we recommend that older children over 4, because dogs really kind of feel uneasy with children that they don't know what to expect with kids. So that they might be more likely to nip or bite and that sort of thing. So we really kind of learn the dogs that we get in to see how they are with children as well.
So now we've picked out our dog. Let's talk a little bit about what it's like when we have them in the house. For example, pet allergies. What kind of dog would you pick if you have any, some sort of pet allergies, for example, Dr. Warner?
Probably the best type of dog that you could go with there is a dog that's not going to be shedding a lot. And really your two breeds that don't shed are your poodle breeds. So you have from your teacup all the way up to your standard poodle for size to choose from. And schnauzers. Schnauzers do not shed. Both those breeds do need to have grooming and their haircut on occasion.
Okay, what about training? I mean, do we train specifically for older dogs? Do we train specifically for puppies? Or is it kind of a lifelong process where you're spending as much time training both of them?
Oh, it's a lifelong process with training. Old dogs can always learn more, and young dogs certainly need the training and really social skills so that they can grow with the family and be a good part of the family and not end up at a shelter. So that's really one of the goals in training, is to make them a really good, solid family pet.
Well, and that's actually a question that I had. Obviously, when you have shelter dogs, some people assume that if you have a dog that ends up in the shelter that maybe you have a problem with training and that sort of thing. Is there really any such thing as an untrainable dog, or is it really just a matter of taking that dog under your paw? And,
we recommend
and
every dog that goes out for adoption get some sort of training, even if it is a dog that is trained. And mostly when you're working with training, it's training the owner, not as much the dog. And the nice part is that it really teaches you how to handle those problems that you might run into, such as house training problems. I mean, usually these dogs might be trained, potty trained at the shelter, and you get them home and they're going to have accidents the first few times, and how to get through that. If they start chewing on the furniture and that sort of thing, especially with puppies, we recommend that they start training immediately with socialization, and they'll just get along much better in society with people and other dogs. And then there's so much that you can do with your dog that's really fun. There's so many different kinds of training. Not every kind of training might work with every kind of dog. This little guy, you know, he might just train with treats, and he might train actually really easy that way. And that dog may just not really like treats that much and just needs that motivation and wants to be with dad and just wants to train that way. But we recommend training for all dogs, and then it's just amazing how much more you will enjoy your dog and how many of those problems will go away if you start training.
Thank you for joining us today. Tune in next time when we learn about the restoration of the Potter Auditorium in Chatfield. So long.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.